All right. Hello and welcome to this RMS support brown bag. Thank you all for attending. Today we will be reviewing the updates and fixes made in the upcoming patch release. This patch is going to release on the 31st of August, which is going to be this Thursday. As always, if you have any issues with getting that, please feel free to contact our help desk for assistance. During this training, if you have any questions regarding anything that we cover, please type that question into the Q&A section of this WebEx. We do have some RMS Support Center folks on standby to take care of those as they come in. We'll also be opening up the floor for discussion at the end of this presentation. All right, so here are the topics we'll cover today. So we have a general RMS update that impacts document packages and files. We also have an update to the system library real property codes. Then we have updates and fixes made under the Administration and Finances tab. We also have a submittal and import and export change to review. And then finally, we have a fix for the contract reports to review today. Okay, so first up, we have a general update for document packages and files. This kind of impacts several areas within RMS. So all file types aside from these file types listed on the slide will be available for upload into RMS. So any file types that you add that are not these file types are allowed. And the error that occurs whenever a user attempts to add a file that's prohibited has also been changed. This is the previous error that will show if you attempt to upload a file that's not supported. And this is the new error that will show. Okay, next, this update impacts the codes stored in the RMS system library within the category codes and units module. So up at the top here, we have some new codes that have been added to the Navy real property category codes. And then down here at the bottom, we have a few Army real property codes which have had their descriptions updated. Okay, moving on. We'll start to look at the Administration tab. So this update introduces two changes to the Contractors on-Site module in Government mode. This first change affects whenever the government edits the first or last day on site for the prime contractor. Previously, when these dates would be updated, the government would have to wait for the contractor to open the contractor payrolls module for those payrolls to update based on the updated on-site dates. This has been updated, so now whenever the government updates the prime contractor's first or last day on site dates, those payrolls in the contractor payrolls will be automatically generated based on what update is made to the dates. So before I demo this, I'm going to go ahead and review the next few slides so that we can demo several of these updates at once in the application. Okay, so the second change for this is the ability for the government to enter subcontractor first and last days on site. Since this is really the responsibility of the contractor, these first and last day on site fields for any subcontractors will no longer be editable within government mode. So these will only be able to be updated for subcontractors within contractor mode. Okay. And also in the subcontractor edit view, the payrolls ending day of week selection fields are also now read-only in government mode. Again, since this specific subcontractor information maintenance is the responsibility of the contractor, this information can only be edited in contractor mode moving forward. Okay, next we had an issue with the with subcontractors and the insurance required checkbox. So when the insurance required checkbox is unchecked for a subcontractor, but insurance dates had already been added for that subcontractor, the subcontractor could not be deleted because those previously entered dates were not getting removed whenever the insurance required checkbox was deselected. So when attempting to delete a subcontractor, say whenever maybe there's duplicate subcontractors due to an SDEF import that contained a subcontractor with a different responsibility code or something, the insurance dates that may have been entered already for the manually added subcontractor was impacting the deletion of the duplicate subcontractor and was keeping the user from deleting it. So this has been updated to work a little better now. So as we can see in this error, the subcontractor could not be deleted due to those dates being added for the insurance records. And I also want to point out that in this error, the subcontractor also cannot be deleted due to it being tied to exposure hour records. So if the subcontractor is tied to anything else within the contract, those will need to be removed. Those links will need to be removed before the subcontractor can be deleted as well. Just a quick note on that. All right, so I will start the demo after this slide. So we will get into a contract. What I did is I went into contractor payrolls and I went up to this contractors on site button. Previously, the first day on site was August 1st, so I updated it to be, here, I'll just go ahead and update it again. So just a little earlier, May 2nd. And so when I go back to the contractor payrolls, as we can see, it recalculates automatically in government mode. We no longer have to wait on the contractor to open this module in contractor mode for these payrolls to generate. So I went to the contractors on site using this button to update the first day on site, but you can also go to the actual contractors on site module to update that date. And I will also want to show here that, as you can see, the prime contractor first and last day on site dates are the only ones that are going to be editable from now on. The subcontractor first and last day on site fields cannot be edited in government mode any longer. After this release, of course. So next, for the next update that we reviewed, I'll go into the subcontractors and go into the subcontractor edit view. Again, these first and last day on site fields are disabled and read only in government mode. And also the payroll required selections at the bottom can only be edited in contractor mode. Oops. Okay, so now that I've got a subcontractor with insurance required, I'm going to go ahead and demo attempting to delete a subcontractor whenever insurance dates have been entered. So we've got my test subcontractor here. If I go back out to the administration tab and go to the contractor insurance tab instead, I'll go in and set some insurance dates for this subcontractor, just some arbitrary dates. So I've entered some insurance expiration dates, and they do translate over into the contract insurance date. So as I mentioned before, if one instance where a subcontractor may need to be deleted is whenever a subcontractor has been manually entered, and then an SDEF import was performed with that subcontractor included, but it had a different responsibility code within the SDEF import. That would be a reason you'd need to manually clean out a subcontractor. So let's just say that that's happened for this test case. So if I go into these, or if I select the subcontractor and go ahead and attempt to delete it, we can see that since those dates have been entered for the auto and general insurance expirations, and they are active dates, we cannot delete this subcontractor, which is correct. However, if we go in here, instead of going back out to the contractor insurance module, clearing out each date, navigating back to this edit view, if you deselect the insurance required checkbox for the subcontractor, those dates will automatically be cleared from the contractor insurance module. So just real quick, I deselected the insurance required. So if I go back out to contractor insurance, we can see that it displays NA as it would for a subcontractor that does not have insurance required. So now that we've done that and we attempt to delete it, we get no error holding us back from deleting this subcontractor. There's no other links to it. And then real quick, I'm not going to delete this subcontractor just yet. I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to recheck this insurance required checkbox. And then check this out one more time in contractor insurance. So as we can see, even though we previously had dates selected for this when insurance was previously required, deselecting that checkbox is going to clear out those dates, and it's not going to remember those dates either. So those dates will not be repopulated. So I'll go back. And since there's no dates repopulated, we can go ahead and delete this item, this subcontractor. And the deletion is successful. All right. So moving on from subcontractor. We'll now look at the contract personnel module. We do have a couple of fixes and updates made to this module. So first up are some new options added to the contract personnel edit screen. The team member active checkbox has been added to signify whether or not the staff member is active on the contract. And also the date fields for the date started and the date finished for the staff member have been added to signify when they started on the contract and when they finished on the contract. This should assist in managing the active and inactive personnel on the contract, and it can also be helpful for historical purposes to see who worked on what during a certain period of time and getting a point of contact information for the contract. So again, before I demo that, I'm going to review these next couple of slides so that we can demo everything for this module at once. So next, we had an update to how position titles can be added for a single staff member in this contract personnel module. Currently, only one position title can be assigned to a single staff member. As we can see on the slide, this screen here, a warning comes up when attempting to add the same staff member just for a separate or different position title. So this has been updated, and now a single staff member can be assigned to multiple position titles in the PDT members box. So let's take a look at that in the application. So I'll go back into our contract. In the administration tab, we'll go to contract personnel. So already we've got 2 Jimmy Deans. So if we'll go ahead and add another one. So again, here are those new, the fields, the team member active checkbox and the date started and date finished checkbox. So we'll set a separate position title and add a date started. And go back. And it allowed us to do that. And then if we want to specify which dates Jimmy Dean finished which position, he was a physical scientist for almost a month, 2 weeks, and he is no longer active in that position title. And so now we can see that on the project delivery team members selection view. Okay, moving on from contract personnel, we also have an update to the contract file module. So in the top left image, we're showing the current view of the contract file module. This is as it looks currently in production. And this is the new view. It's been segmented into 2 different file tabs. The contract documents tab is the just original contract file view. And then the File Viewer tab is a little different. It's going to list all of the documents for the contract, but just in a little bit of a different way with different column headers to filter by. So we've got document title, file name, document type, and source. So this we will also demo in the application to take a look at some of the options available in the File Viewer tab. So I want to point out that this is a newer training contract we've set up. So there's not very many documents here. As documents are generated throughout the contract's lifecycle in RMS, more documents will be added here. And then, of course, documents can be manually added as well if needed. So here is the File Viewer tab. As I mentioned, we've got different column headers here to filter by. And when you click on items, it will select it for you. You can select all or deselect all. I want to touch on these export buttons up here. So when I select items, it will enable this export selected items button. Of course, you must select items for that to enable. So that's going to export the items that I've selected, and it's going to bring up a folder browser for me to select a location on my computer to export these documents to. Okay, and once that's finished, a confirmation is going to come up letting you know that the export has completed and those files can be found in your file system. So that's that export button. This export button over here, it's going to export only this table grid of the items listed. It's not going to export any actual documents or of these documents. It's going to export this view as you see it now. So try not to get those two confused. Okay, and then down here at the bottom, we've got some other familiar options that are available for documents throughout RMS. We can select a file and save it to our local file system. And we can also view the document. That will bring up the document in a file viewer to view the document selected. And since we've got a photo here, we've also got a little preview down here for images if you'd like to see them. You can expand that through doing this. And I think that's about it for the contract file update. So that is the updated contract file view. Next up, we have an update to the correspondence module. So previously, the answer required by field was available on the correspondence screen, and that field was used to pull username data into RMS 2.38 reports like the correspondence subject and status report. And when RMS 3.0 was released, this field was never added back in. So now it has been returned. It is labeled differently. It's now the action by field. And this field's been returned to the screen, and it is now used to add the user's name to the report to reflect that an action is needed by that user. Next, also in the correspondence module, this is a minor update, but we felt it was pretty important. It was, behaving kind of weirdly. So a loading screen has been added to for large files being downloaded from RMS. So previously, RMS didn't show any loading screen like this when a large file was downloading. It kind of behaved like it didn't work, when in reality it was just performing the download in the background. So this screen has been added to ensure that users are aware that the file is in fact downloading. It just may be taking a while due to the size of the document. So if you get this message, you're probably downloading a very large file and it's just taking a little while. And so we've added that to make sure you know. Now we had an issue with the P2 projects module. So as we can see on this slide, the wrong issues were being pulled into the P2 projects module. So these issues, these RMS customer and use case issues that could be entered in the contract status module within RMS were being pulled into this screen when really it should be the P2 information. So this has been corrected. These fields have been updated and another one has been added for the scope of work. And so it makes a little more sense to have these fields here. So these fields do import directly from P2. So whatever information is in P2 will display here instead of the RMS issues from the contract status module. Okay, next up in contract setup, we had an update to the CUI option. So when when a contract is set as containing CUI, this checkbox here, the check here to change the default CUI markings, when that's enabled and the text box is being edited, there is a minimum of 3 characters required in that text box. So as you can see, there's only 2 characters, so we'll get all of these errors if there are not enough characters within the text box. And before I demo this, we also have a similar update for summary reports as it relates to the security classification parameters. So again, this text box for running summary reports that you want to add CUI markings to is going to require a minimum of 3 characters. Otherwise, the preview and print button will be disabled and this little warning will show. So real quick, let's show this in the application. So in contract setup of our contract, I'll jump straight to the CUI tab and I'll change this to yes in part. And when I check this box, it's going to enable this this text box. So if I type in just 2 characters, we can see that it turns red. And when I hover over it, it's going to tell me that I have an error. And when I try to leave, it will also tell me that I have an error and I can either cancel my changes or return to editing. So once we fix that, whoops, there's no error and we can leave the screen. Okay, and back in contract selection, if we go to the summary reports module, and we'll just click on any report. Again, if I only enter 2 characters in there, this box is going to show me a warning that that's not enough characters, and I also cannot click on either of these preview or print buttons until I add a 3rd character. And then these are enabled and no warnings are shown. Okay, so now we will be looking at fixes and updates made under the Finances tab. First, we have an update to the progress payment selection view, specifically for final payments. So at this time, the downloaded contract settlement date from CFMS can't really be viewed in RMS. FAR clause requirements, the FAR clause determines the due date for the final payment. And if there is a contract settlement date, that final payment is going to be based off of the contract settlement date. It's going to, the payment due date will be the 30th day after that settlement date. So RMS could not display this date inside progress payments previously, but RMS was still using that date from CFMS to calculate the final payment due date if it was available. If there is no contract settlement date entered in CFMS and available for RMS to base the due date off of, then the due date is based off of the invoice received date. Okay, so I'll go to a contract that does have a final payment real quick. So I'll go to the Finances tab and then to the Progress Payment module. And so as you can see, we've got our final payment here and the CFMS settlement date, which is the contract settlement date, is listed here. And this red text signifying that the payment due date is the 30th day after the settlement date is here. So if I click off of the final payment, all of that information is going to be gone. It's only going to show up for the contract's final payment. Okay, next is a pretty significant change, sort of minor, but also significant. The Send Payment to CFMS button has been moved from the Obligations tab to the Document Package tab. Hopefully this allows the process of creating and completing an invoice to become a little bit more streamlined. We will demo this as well. So back in my training contract, I'll go to finances and then progress payment. I've already got a payment ready for us to work on for this demo. So we'll jump straight over to the obligations tab. So as we can see, we've got the ENG 93 completed tab. And before I check that, I'm going to go ahead and look at the document package tab. And we can see that the button is in fact there. It is disabled though, so that's only going to be enabled whenever the ENG 93 is completed. Yes. And then when we complete the ENG 93, it's going to take us directly to the document package tab. So once you reach the document package tab, instead of reviewing and completing and signing documents in the document packages and having to go back to the obligations tab to click on the send payment to CFMS, it's just going to stay here. So let's say the ENG 93 is actually not completed. We actually need to make some edits. We can just, as usual, just uncheck this, confirm that we want that done in the window, make any edits that are needed, and once those are completed, you can just check this again, and it will do the same thing and take you to the document package tab where all of that can be reviewed and completed before the send payment to CFMS button can be clicked. All right, next, still in finances, we have a few changes and fixes for the contract changes module. First is a new tab that's been added to the change request edit view. This is the potential design deficiency tab. Previously, there was no place in RMS where these specific sections on the BCD could be edited. So to fix that, we've added this new tab. Due to FAR clause requirements, this was added to allow users to add the AE liability information. So if a contract change modification is due to an AE liability, then that information can be entered here in the potential design deficiency tab to have it displayed on the BCD report in the appropriate sections. For each of these questions listed on the screen, if yes is selected as shown here, then the memo boxes will be enabled for further information to be added. So we've got, is this change the result of the AE firm making an error or omission? Describe the error or omission. Does the error or omission appear to be negligence or breach of contractual duty? Description of the AE firm's negligence. And finally, has the government suffered damages as a result of the AE's action? And then further text boxes for that. So if you need any more information on filling this out, please check out the FAR clause referenced in this guidance provided at the top. FAR 50, yes. We've added some references here and some guidance for filling out this section. Okay, and now here is the last bottom part of that screen. There are additional cost information fields that can be added for any damages specified here. So the BCD report has also been reworked to include this section and then also some other improvements. So before we get into the demo, I'm going to, again, review the next few slides and try to encompass them all in one demo once I'm finished. Okay, next is an update to the status and funding tab on the change request. The optional selection to set the fund status and the create BCD button have both been added here. The contract change workflow has been updated to include this fund status and creating a BCD that is committed to the supporting documents. Once all the information is entered in these tabs for the change, this button will create the BCD report and add it to the supporting documents tab. If a BCD has already been created for the change, then this button will reflect that by displaying create BCD version 2, 3, and so on, depending on which version you are creating. Okay, this is the last change before we'll jump into the demo. So this is an update for multi-part change requests. A checkbox has been added which allows the first part of the first and only part of a multi-part change request to be converted into a single part change request. So please keep in mind that this checkbox is only going to be available for multi-part change requests that only contain its first part and no other parts exists. So let's get into the application again to demo this. So in the contract menu, under finances, we'll go to the contract changes module. And I do have this change already ready. So already we can tell that this is the first part of a multi-part change request by seeing this -1 and our checkbox is available. So before I check that, I'll go back and I've got a 2-part change request down here, the first and second part being there. So if I go into the first part, that checkbox is no longer available. And that's because it does contain a subsequent part. And so breaking that link between those is not possible. And then I'll go back and I'll check this. Are you sure you want to convert? Yes. And so the checkbox is still there. It's just disabled. But if you leave the screen and come back, the checkbox will be gone. Okay, and our next update to discuss, I'll go to the new tab. So the new tab is the potential design deficiency. This is the default view for this tab. It's automatically going to have no selected for each of these prompts. So I will go ahead and start entering in some information that we can see on the updated BCD report. Okay, so I've entered some information and I'll just click on this BCD button. And I do have another. Okay, so this is the current version of the BCD. This is opened in the production release currently out right now. So first on the front page, we've cleaned up this little mishap right here. We've closed in this table. I don't think there's any other updates here, but if we go to page 2, this has been renumbered as well. Instead of 21, 22, 23, we've got just part C, 1, 2, 3, and 4 is where our potential design deficiency tab, this new section has been added. So it's actually replaced these sections, and section 26 has, or section number 26, section 6 was removed. So as we can see, this potential design deficiency tab has captured all of the information that I entered properly. Okay, so that is the potential design deficiency tab. And then we will go to the status funding tab. So we've got a date completed already marked for our BCD. And then down here are our new options for the fund status. This is optional. It's not a mandatory entry. So if you just click here, you'll have a selection of the options available for the status of the funds that you'd like to, or that are current. And then also we've got the Create BCD button over here. So if we click on that Create BCD button, it's going to pull all the information we've already inserted into these tabs, put it into a BCD, and put that BCD into the Supporting Documents tab. And since we've already created one BCD, if we had further updates to make, we could make those and then create BCD version 2. And it will also directly go into this Supporting Documents tab. And then the next version is reflected in that button. All right. I think that is it for contract changes. So we will move on to contractor claims and disputes module updates. This was an issue that was occurring with setting the date for the action complete file closed event for a claim in the claim dispute edit view. So when setting the date for this event and refreshing or backing out of the view and re-entering the view, the date would not save in this events section down here, and so then it would not populate in the contractor claims and disputes selection view either. This has been corrected, and the date now saves correctly whenever it's entered into this event. And then since it does save correctly in this screen, it also populates correctly in the selection view. Okay, next we'll look at the import and export tab, specifically the document package export module. So when performing exports of document packages in this module, files that had been deleted were still being included in the export. So as we can see here in this payment, there's only 2 documents available. 1 document had been deleted already. So when we exported that, it included that deleted document incorrectly. So this has been corrected, and deleted documents are no longer going to be included in these exports. It's only going to export the documents that actively reside within the document packages. No deleted documents. Okay, next is sort of an issue update that was occurring with these submittal reports. So the submittal type code was showing differently in these 2 different reports, the 4025 report, as well as the submittal register 4288 report. One report was showing the truncated version of the long title for the submittal type code, and then the other one was showing the complete long title. So now each of these reports is going to display the submittal type code the same way. Okay, finally, the last change we'll be reviewing today has been made to the contract status sheet. So it says update, but it's a little bit more of a fix. The actual and scheduled percentage values on this report was only showing as 0, no matter what the progress or placement reflected for the contract. So this has been corrected and updated, and now these progress percentages display the correct percentages. Okay, and that's the end. We have some references and resources for you as usual. We've linked some videos that we found may be helpful, and then the resources for the RMS help desk support and the KM portal are listed at the bottom. So now we'll open up the floor for any discussion or any questions you may have. Feel free to unmute, or you can just keep typing your question into the Q&A, and then of course you can raise your hand. And thank you so much for joining today.
It's a little quiet, but I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple of questions that are in the chat that have not been answered. I'll go ahead and answer those really fast. The first one with the submittals. Question is being asked in the submittals, where is the return for contractor for corrections? That button has been removed and will not be added back due to requirements from headquarters. If you need to return it to the contractor, you will need to code it using the appropriate QA code to have the contractor resubmit at a later time. The other question that we have is a user is wondering about a ticket that they have out, whether or not the history for payrolls rejecting or approving is not showing the name and date correctly. I will reply to your ticket and give you an update as to whether or not that's going to be in this release or not. I do not know that off at the top of my head. The next one. Are there any reports to display users or PDT personnel? This one I do not know off of the top of my head either. I do believe the answer is yes, but I will have to get back to you with that one. While I'm looking at that, if there are any other questions, feel free to go ahead and pop those up. Yes, a copy of the slides I think are usually sent out by the TMO. They will send out a copy, and if not, they are available on our website. So if you go to rms.usafe.army.mil under the training section, you will see a link to these slides, so you'll be able to take a look at those from there. For your question, I haven't been able to find the answer so far, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and create a ticket for you, and I'll get you your answer as soon as we get the answer. Okay?
I was looking at that action by the correspondence, and I know you all replied. It said it was for information only, but I guess when you do these changes, we really need it walked all the way back through. So I was trying to, if you walk that back through to the action item screens and then the my action items. So now we're gonna, in this case, and it's probably not a huge deal, but we're gonna get an action by a certain person selected on the correspondence page, and then the action items, it's limited to one person per action item type. So now we're gonna potentially have 2 people identified as action by, just for example. So to me, the true fix to all that is you have the action by on the correspondence page, and you walk it all the way back through, and it updates the action item screen, and it updates to the my action items box for that individual. So just saying information only to me really doesn't provide the really the comprehensive solution to that, I guess, in my opinion. Over.
We do appreciate that update. We will definitely take that into consideration, and we will pull this up the chain of command and ask them their opinion on that one. So let me see here. I think perhaps that could be a misnomer as well, because the action item in the correspondence was just who performed that particular correspondence. I do know that there are no action items specifically related to correspondence themselves. So again, we do appreciate any feedback you guys give us. We definitely take those into consideration. And if you do have other feedback, feel free to bring it up with your RSG members if you don't get any response, or if you haven't sent it to us, so that way it can be taken into consideration and changes can be made to RMS in the future. So we will definitely look into that and see what we can find out about that one, because we want to make sure it's useful to the users of RMS. Okay?
Okay. I guess just for clarity, in the action items, if you click on item types letters, you get 2 options there. There's one, government, letter needs government answer, and there's a contractor, letter needs contractor answer. So that's what I was referring to.
Okay, I apologize. When I searched for it, I looked for correspondence, not letter. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we'll look into that for you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, for progress payment, let's put this a scenario. Let's say I have 5 invoice, and I did a retainage, maybe an invoice number 2, and now I'm processing the invoice number 5. And it would be possible to include maybe a reminder or warning message and say, hey, you have a retainage in the invoice number 2. Can you release that retainage now? Or yes and no, because something I process payment and I forgot to release the retainage, and sometimes it's too late to release the retainage, so I need to create an invoice to pay off that retainage amount. That is just some advice.
So that's actually a pretty good suggestion. With this one, we'll definitely have to bring this up with the RSG members because, as you guys may know, we're not allowed to make any changes to RMS without approval of headquarters. So right now, RMS doesn't do that. It just assumes that you'll remember to go in there and do that kind of information. So it's a great suggestion, though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that possible in the future will be good, but so far I just try it. I have that problem a couple of times, and then I say, oh holy, I forgot to release this payment, so I need to create a invoice just to release that amount. So if for new future invoice we have like maybe a warning message say, hey, you know, will be helpful for future RMS updates. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that input.
Would you, if you would you please put in a RMS help ticket so we can track and capture that information?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I had a different question, I guess really not related necessarily to slides, but the I was interested if y'all had heard if the CFMS people had backed out that new policy on reversing the auto accruals. They don't reverse automatically if they were made within the last 30 days, and that's causing us problems. We're getting, you know, the green light from the RMS side, and then we go into CFMS to sign it, and it's blocked because there's inadequate funds.
Unfortunately, we are not aware of CFMS's working background information. I did know that they did do that in the past, but if they're not doing that now, we didn't have any knowledge of that. So
Yeah.
if that is what's going on, then that's that is something that needs to be known by everybody. I'm guessing CFMS does training, and they probably should have updated the users with this information.
Have you brought this up to your RM staff?
Yeah, we've had probably half a dozen pay estimates now, so they're the only ones that can reverse them. So I mean, ultimately they got to do the fix, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. You know, we went through all the trials and tribulations to get the auto reversals working, you know, automatically, and now it's jamming it up.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have much sway with CFMS and their policies.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah. Appreciate it. Thanks. Thought I'd ask.
All right. Are there any other questions? No? Okay. Well, then thank you guys so very much for joining us for this brown bag presentation. Just remember, this release is supposed to come out later on this week, Thursday in the afternoon. So be prepared for that. And if you need anything else, always feel free to create a support ticket. You can give us a call if you can't create a ticket, and we'll be more than happy to help you out at any other time. Again, thank you for joining, and I hope y'all have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody.